How's it going, guys? Brian Richards here with Rock US again. Getting back in the groove. It's 8 a.m. on the West Coast, so just still about maybe halfway into my first coffee, but appreciate you guys for hopping on and checking out another segment. Appreciate Reece for allowing us to speak with you today and to kind of show off a couple different ideas for how to future-proof your business. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on right now, changes to the way that businesses are being run. And we were seeing, trends and things start to shift in the screen industry, well before this. And so my anticipation is once things get back up and rolling here, we're going to see those trends not just continue, but most likely accelerate. So we're going to dive in here, and we'll take a couple questions at the very end, and hope you guys enjoy. So current trends we've seen for the last probably 2 to 3 years is this real growth in the digital apparel side of the printing industry and how that can be compatible with screen print operations and for screen print shops. E-commerce is something that is, really taken off. Everybody's utilizing Amazon services, delivery. We're seeing right now, especially how crazy it is, like with food delivery services or grocery delivery. So this idea that more tech, more quick, and people are taking advantage of the customizations and the delivery directly to the customer. So these are things that have been happening. Now they're just happening on a greater scale and will continue to do so. With regards to how the screen print shops adjust, we are seeing a kind of a lean into sort of this hybrid technology, right? It's a completely different beast when we talk about screen and digital and how, different types of jobs and different types of markets will lend themselves to either of those printing techniques. But there is an in-between, and it can be, I think, kind of a segue into digital printing for folks who are not doing a lot of, large-scale apparel with digital. So we'll dive into a little bit of the hybrid technologies, check that out as well as the fully screenless. And then we'll look into just consumer behavior, what's happening, what's changing, the virality, I don't know, is that a word, of the market now. We are seeing, I can't even tell you how many ads I saw, in the last couple of weeks when I get on Facebook or Instagram for Carol Baskin t-shirts, right? Or things, people who are, trying to take advantage of the Tiger King hype, right? So there's this kind of segment in the industry where it's all about quick to market. It's all about who can get their stuff out there and who can fulfill it quickly. And now, with even more emphasis on reducing labor, on reducing overhead and the footprint of your space. How much can you produce without having a giant warehouse or a huge team, right? And so digital lends itself to that and the customizations of variable data orders as well. So lots of interesting stuff that's going on. The online marketplace is really what's driving a majority of this. We're seeing in our screen print industry, looking at folks who have had a really tough time the last few weeks here with this shutdown thing. What they're pivoting towards is they're finding a way to help not only keep the lights on, but to help their customers who are also struggling, right? The restaurant industries and the sports industries and things of that nature. So we're seeing a lot of online merchandise shops, people who are, putting out basically a custom like boutique for their customers, allowing folks to go on and order a shirt and then, sending half the proceeds to their customers and end users. So pretty interesting. The merch stores, the different platforms that are coming out, allowing folks to satisfy that type of niche. the boutique brands, and so on and so forth. You also have these huge major players who both have their own offerings and have their own services for you. So the Printfuls, the Zazzles, Custom Inks, and Amazons of the world, where you can log on and pretty much, purchase any t-shirt you want, or you can start a platform for your own merchandise and then outsource the dirty work to them. But if you get to a point where the business takes off and it's excelling, just like any industry, you look at the numbers and you say to yourself, well, is this something that we'd be able to do? Not only cutting, increasing the margins for ourselves, but being able to offer this service to our customers as well, kind of expanding into different markets. So the focus in doing so is really on fulfillment, right? What is your cost to print, pack, and ship? And can you do that efficiently and profitably? Obviously, businesses right now are looking at eliminating inefficiencies, cutting labor where they can, and the digital landscape tends to lend itself to that as well. The speed to the market is the key here. It's just that you cannot do things with screen that you can do with digital. And that might be starting with digital on a very small scale. It could be a little tabletop, DTG printer, or even a pod of those printers, to kind of test that market, make sure it's working for you and your customer base, and then kind of taking it to the next level from there with some of the equipment and the options we'll see today. And running on low, or even in some cases, no inventory. So we all know inventory is a bad word. And so the ability to turn and burn and bring things in and put them out the door within, 1 to 2 days, pretty phenomenal versatility that the online marketplaces and the digital segments offer. So screen, right? Screen in this conversation is kind of like the OG of printing processes. And, it still has its place, absolutely, and it will continue to do so. You cannot touch the speed of the screen print for large scale. The ability for replication of an image over and over and over again at a low cost and at a high speed, screen is still going to dominate that segment. Now, as we go, you can imagine with any technology, the digital options should become faster and less expensive. And we've already started to see that a little bit. We'll continue to see that, though, for over the next, 3, 4, 5 years. But when we talk about, 10,000 piece orders, right? When we talk about really large, massive operations for the NBA or for concerts or something like that, screen is likely still going to be the option for replicating the same image over and over again. Even if digital gets to a point where it can compete on the speed of the screen, the consumable and the cost of the print is really where screen is still going to kind of shine bright. So low maintenance is another thing, especially if you get yourself a good piece of equipment for your screen print operation, compared to the digital side, a lot lower on the maintenance and needing to keep track of, making sure that thing is fine-tuned. Skilled labor is something that, you will need more on the screen side than digital. You're not just placing a shirt on a pallet and letting the computer do its thing, right? There's registration and angles of squeegee and pressure. And if you've been a screen printer or know screen printers, you might argue on the skilled portion of that, but we like to think that we're somewhat skilled. And then larger footprints, right? You can imagine, multiple automatics in a warehouse and how much space that's taking up compared with a DTG pod, right? Or a couple of DTG options. So a couple things to think about: where screen is, how, where it's gotten to this point in the industry, and how things are starting to change with digital. For your customizations and for your future proofing, right? It's not all just setting yourself up with, the latest and the greatest advancements with DTG technology. It's also making sure that you're offering your customers what they're looking for on the screen side. So looking at the ability to increase versatility on your press, set yourselves apart from the competition, be able to reduce labor greatly if you're doing certain special or after effects. The rock iron that you see here in this photo is one of my favorite accessories. It's not an accessory that's incredibly, expensive in terms of getting into. For someone who's doing 10,000 pieces of foil, it's going to be very expensive to run labor post-press, applying that foil on a heat press. And there's a certain justification that comes into play in terms of adding a flock or a foil unit to your machine to be able to cut down that labor. But an iron, in terms of the cost of entry, is a lot less and provides most shops out there, those who may not be doing a ton of special effects stuff, with the ability to offer a superior product to their customers. So if you're still, traditional screen printing and majority of stuff that you're doing is still plastisol inks, an accessory like an inline iron is incredible in terms of setting yourself apart. It's not really, it'll slow the speed down slightly, maybe 10 or 15%, but what it can do is it can give you a more uniform underbase. It's kind of like, for those of you who are familiar with a roller squeegee, it's kind of like a roller squeegee on steroids, a hot plate that basically presses down onto Teflon and just smooths out that thick white underbase, reduces it down, makes it nice and flat and smooth, right? Non-textured. So the print itself is only going to be as good as what the underbase is. And so if we can totally smooth and uniform out that underlay, it really does provide for a superior finished product in terms of the hand of the print, the feel, but also the look. You can visibly see that the ink does look nicer. So I do like that option. Obviously, we touched a little on flock and foil, a lot more specialty, but if you have customers that are ordering high volume and want that, take a look at how long it's taking yourself or your team to apply those after effects once the printing's done. And it can be a pretty easy justification on deciding to invest in something that will allow you to produce those types of effects in line. Digital printing. So we talk about future proofing, right? This is the idea of you're investing in a product that, yes, it can print t-shirts, right? Just like some of the other products, but what else can it do, right? In the future, if you're thinking about, trying your hand at this digital segment, getting into the marketplace, reducing your setup times by only having to print a white screen, and laying down your CMYK digital print on top, having a machine that when you choose to make that leap and that decision, makes it very easy to implement, right? So you're not having to reinvent things. You're not having to buy an entirely separate unit to outfit it with this. If we're investing in things that we can, that will grow along with our companies. So the ability for certain rock machines to accept iron's easy. Flock and foil are actually very easy as well. But to accept a digital print head, these are things that you should be looking into before you make an equipment purchase. How will that machine serve me as we move on? And multimedia, right? A mixture of both digital and print, and special effects. These things are all possible with customizations. Hybrid digital. So we're seeing this become a very popular option. Reduces your setup time greatly for screen printing. So if you are the type of screen print business that is doing high color count stuff, right? You're doing band merch, or you're doing, racing, concerts, things that tend to lend themselves towards over 6 color, routinely 8 color, sometimes 10 color options. The ability for a shop to plug in one of these digital solutions only set up their one underbase white screen and register that to the digital print head, you're going now from 2 units of registration down from 8, 9, 10, right? And so if you're running high color count stuff on multiple machines, it can really be, you know, an incredible tool for labor savings and setup time reduction. The other thing is you look at the consumable cost. So while, you know, small volume, high color count, you know, you automatically think DTG. High volume, you know, one repeatable unit, you think screen printing. This functions right in between, where it's not quite the zero setup that you get from DTG. It is a huge setup savings from screen print. And then on the consumable side, right, not as expensive as DTG on consumable, not as inexpensive as screen print, but right in the middle. So it hits kind of this zone where if you're printing like a 25 to even up to like 1,000 piece run, running it on a hybrid could be beneficial. You're not having to lay down that white underbase on your digital, which is so time consuming, but also cost consuming. So to be able to take that entirely out of the process, screen print a much more affordable white plastisol print, and then to just CMYK the top, it kind of hits that perfect zone, like right in between, that a lot of shops are seeing. You have no pre-treat if you're on a dark garment. So again, you're utilizing that white screen print base. You're curing that, flashing it, and then your CMYK printing over the top of it. You can add a pre-treat to these if you do want to print on like a white shirt. You would just need to pre-treat, obviously avoid the white screen, and go right to the digital print head. And the implementation and the ability for a unit like this to provide your printing with some variable data, right? So if you're wanting to print the same circle logo on 1,000 shirts, but you want to put a different photographic image in each one of those circles, right? You have the same shape that your base is going to provide you with, but then you have a different variable data that's going into that shape. Or something like a car dealership, right? Do you have one part of the graphic that's always the same, and then another part like either above or beneath it that's going to change, like the location, right? So like Hanley Chevrolet, Phoenix, right? And then the next shirt, Tucson, right? So you're adding in this kind of variable data to an image that also has a constant piece to it. So digital hybrid is very exciting. The other thing that it can kind of be a stepping stone towards is fully digital, right? So fully digital on a massive scale. So in terms of labor, you are able to run these machines now. This is our Rock Now digital machine with one operator. That operator can produce by themselves 100 different shirts with 100 different designs on them every hour, right? And much faster than that if it's the same image where the computer is not having to toggle and adjust for variable data. But still, to be able to fulfill those types of numbers with the labor of just one operator, pretty cost effective for a lot of shops who are printing for online marketplaces and digital data often. What comes on this machine, and these are customizable. Obviously, you could mix and match different options here. Potentially also add screening options into this. But the unit you see here is a fully digital machine. If you go to any of the ISS Long Beach shows or the Printing United shows, if we're going to still have trade shows, I'm assume that we will. You'll see these units there, and you'll see them in action. They're pretty awesome to see. We have a short video that we're going to watch here in a second, but you're pre-treating in line on this machine, where sometimes you'll hear people throw out numbers. Oh, we can do 400, 500 an hour. That might be the printing, but that doesn't account for the labor to also pre-treat the garment. So when we say 100 different shirts an hour, that's including the pre-treating, that's including flashing, heat pressing to remove any fibrillation, and even the option to inline final cure. So from a space saving standpoint, to be able to not have a big 20-foot conveyor dryer that you're throwing the shirts down, but to actually be able to do a final cure on the unit over here when it ends up at the control panel. Also really advantageous for businesses who are looking to decrease their overall footprint and their square footage. Fuji print heads and DuPont ink, so you're getting kind of the finest here on both of those. An incredible solution. Definitely reach out to me or the team at Rock to explore if now digital or if now hybrid is right for you. Let's take a look at our video here. All right, so the Now Digital, obviously a fantastic component for those who are doing a large-scale digital operation, but that's just one part of the fulfillment process, right? So the printing solution is made easy, but then how do you get that product to your customer? And so we look at something that I think goes hand in hand with the digital side of things, which is the actual fulfillment side. Oh, I'm jumping ahead here. Before we finish fulfilling, just a quick snapshot for you guys who are still, if anyone's still kind of confused on when screen, when digital, when hybrid. You can look here at setup times, right? So obviously there's kind of a sliding scale going from screen to digital. Your print speed, so again, sliding scale from screen to digital. So it takes you longer to set up on screen, but you print much quicker. And then your consumable cost is lower. So it's just something that you guys are going to have to navigate. How big is the order? How many colors is it? If it's variable, then obviously you're going to lean towards digital. But these are the metrics that you're going to use in kind of making that decision. Then once the print is accomplished, however you're going to accomplish the print, you got to fold and pack that thing, and you got to get it out the door. So the fold and pack machine makes it really easy for especially inline operators like on the Now to take a finished piece and turn and just set it on a folding line and let the Rock fold and pack do its thing. So again, one operator, 700 pieces an hour. The versatility on this thing is going to be unmatched in terms of the folding options. No problem on hoodies, no problem on polyesters, no problem on things even more unique, jeans, women's blouses, things like that. You're able to fold and package on this unit with ease. Options for inline size stickers before the product gets bagged. Options for UPC barcode stickers after it gets bagged. Stacking options if you want to put more than one piece in a bag. And then a consumable cost, you're looking at about 9 to 15 cents, depending on if you buy your plastic in bulk or not in terms of adding to a bag cost. So you can see there, just based on that, pretty easy to charge maybe 25, 30 cents, maybe up to 50 cents for a bag and fold and be able to actually make money on this process as well. For those of you who are already folding, already fulfilling and packaging, it's really just a matter of scale in terms of when it makes sense to look at a unit like this. And this slide just kind of breaks down an example of if you do have two people manually folding, what types of numbers are they doing? Probably in the 100 an hour range per person, whereas one person with a fold and pack unit can more than double that easily. So in terms of the scale of production, accomplishing more with the fold and pack, you can see the numbers become very clear in terms of how fast you can do this. But then also the labor portion is something that you have to dig into. If you needed to, you can see here just based on this, obviously the fold and pack at the end of the year is going to be able to produce more than double with one person compared to two. And with the equipment expense built in there with an estimated monthly of around 2,000, you come out almost the same on total cost, a little bit less actually with one operator and a fold and pack than just two people manually. But you might say to yourself, well, I only need to do 200 an hour. I don't need to do 500. But think about growth and thinking about the ability for your business to scale. You could be making that payment, reducing your labor, having a piece of equipment that's an asset, that's a write-off. And if you look at the total cost there, over the span of a couple of years, maybe in 3 or 4 years, when you are ready to double your production and you are ready to do 400 or 500 pieces an hour, you may have a machine that's almost already paid off, right? So just looking at ways to get lean, get skinny, and increase your fulfillment is going to be advantageous. I'm actually going to skip the video there, just a short video on the Rock fold and pack. If you go to YouTube and you go to Rock US or Rock International, you'll see the fold and pack. We got a couple of really awesome videos that display that unit. So just to wrap up here, don't want to run over time. We're looking at how online purchasing is changing the print industry. We're looking at what is digital relevancy today will probably become digital supremacy over screen print one day in the future, especially for certain, kind of lower volume jobs. The ability for folks to see ahead of the curve, to invest in something now that you can adapt with in the future, and have kind of a growth mindset, right? Try and see what might I be able to add? What else is out there that could help my business grow in the future in a different marketplace for my company. So that's all I got, you guys. If you have additional questions, definitely reach out to me, my contact info there, or the Rock team. Check us out at rock.us. Join our Rock Solo shirt loading competition. Follow us on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook. And any